Oh,
It worked.
So
I don't
so
know.
it's
there's a problem with
me.
you.
I'm the problem.
The problem
A
is
little.
you. Oh, okay.
All right. Well, that was a great idea. I'm going to go on mute now.
Okay. All right. Well, we're back. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Vice Chair Bondo, you were in the middle of talking about the anonymous reporting and your thoughts about that. Do you want to continue?
No, I was almost in the end, Chair. So I said, yeah, like I said, I'm leaning to be open so the investigation can go, the way it's supposed to go. And I think people just need to be held accountable for the consequences, And then I think it's going to make much easier for people. And I think just if we have that system of people feeling safe when reporting, that's the one is the most important to me.
Okay, thank you. Did any other committee members have any thoughts they'd like to share? Go ahead. We can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sweet, sorry. So I think Yusra wanted to say something, but I have something to say after.
Yusra Ali, do you have anything you'd like to share now?
Hi, yes, give me one second.
Testing.
Yes, I was just going to say that I really appreciated that you walked us through the form, and that for me made me feel a little bit better because now I see that there is the option in practice that you can you can share your information or decide not to, so it doesn't completely take away the fact that that still exists. And I would be interested to see that if, depending on the way the board votes, how the reporting numbers change. And I feel like also, I know like I do share Vice Chair Bondo's concerns, but I also feel like it saves a lot of time and effort to know who the person who has experienced the harassment is, and then also to follow up and just makes the process, in my head at least, go a little bit smoother. My last question was, does the person who's accused are they ever informed of who the person who's accusing them is, for lack of a better term? Just process-wise.
Right. So part of the Title IX process is that the person who is alleged to have, engaged in some sort of discriminatory or some sort of, let's say, sexual harassment, that the way Title IX works is that they are entitled to know who's making that claim, and to, see evidence and information from that investigation. So that is part of the process. So that's why I said the, anonymous reporting is in many ways, I think, is great. And the way the form, as you said, Board Member Ali, that the form does have that space, so someone can still file that complaint. And, from a strictly investigatory lens, it's a little more complicated to investigate an anonymous complaint. And again, doesn't mean that we don't, and we have for sure, but it's a little more challenging because you have to be really thoughtful in a different way about who you're asking and what you're asking, so as not to sort of open doors that didn't need to be opened, if that makes sense. So yeah, but yes, if someone is alleged to have committed, sexual harassment, as an example, they are entitled to know who is making that complaint.
So quick question. So there's like different components that I'm thinking about. So anyone's allowed to put an anonymous reporting, say I witnessed something, right? And I'm person A, this person B and person C, something happened, and I'm person A has reported, and I want to make it anonymous. Is that how it works? Does that work?
Yeah. So if you were like, oh, I'm going to use people on this call, I know none of us would do anything, but if you were like, I saw Jennifer say something really rude to Sarah, and I believe it meets it was harassing in nature or discriminatory in nature, you could file an anonymous report for sure, and you would name, Jennifer said this thing to Sarah, Dr. Sarah Warren, and then when we received that report, we would we would be able to follow up. So for example, then I might go and speak to Sarah and say, hey, I received this anonymous complaint that indicated that, you know, this thing happened. Jennifer said these things to you. Is that true? Is that something you want to talk about? Get a little more information. Maybe Sarah says, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. Or maybe Sarah says, yeah, that happened. And then we can engage in a conversation about whether or not she wants to file a formal complaint or not. So that could be the anonymity. As I think I said earlier, there's some that come through with very little information. So it's really hard to know if that's what's happened, if that was what is trying to be indicated by the form. Or if the person who was named is right. When there's just a name, it's unclear if the person who was named is the victim, is the alleged perpetrator of the discriminatory practice. So that makes it complicated. Yeah.
So I mean, in that case, right? So if there is an anonymous, the real thing I'm pushing back on the anonymity piece, even with discrimination, is like anybody can get anybody in trouble just because they want to, right? And that's like the risky part of it. And like before any investigation, there has to be some piece of evidence, or at least someone says, I witnessed it, right? And it's like, so you witnessed it, yeah. Like, and maybe that piece from after the witness speaks can be anonymous, right? But if I'm looking at like a risky thing where anyone can say anything, and now we're going to investigation based on, you know, whatever, right? So it's like, I mean, people have called the police on me before. I mean, the cops said they did. I think the cop was lying, but anyways, it was an accusatory thing. I was like, I'm not gonna give you my drive. I was driving. I was like sitting in my car. I was like, I'm not gonna give you my driver's license. I'm not gonna give you anything. And they kept accusing me. I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care who accused me. I don't care what you thought I did. I really didn't do anything. And I was like, bro, like, you're just trying to get me to accept that you can search my vehicle myself. Absolutely not. I closed my door. I said, you're not going to touch me. So you're detained. I was like, no, I'm not. You know, okay, I'm going to walk away. You can't do anything. So things like that, right? That's a situation. But I know another person that was not, well, he was falsely personally accused, and he fought his case and he won. So I'm not stating that we don't want, we want people to come forward, right? But I think that at least for the investigation piece, the name could be hidden after. For the witness, for a third person, like, there has to be, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what because someone could not like me, just report me, right? And just say, oh, this happened, that happened.
Well, so can I jump in? I think part of the thing is that we're not discussing whether or not we will allow anonymous reporting. We're discussing whether or not it's legally required to allow anonymous reporting.
Okay.
Can I just
So
clarify?
yes,
It's not legally required, right? In fact, our lawyers are the ones who are recommending that we take out what's in the policy now is a requirement that we have a process for anonymous reporting.
Mhm.
Our lawyers are recommending that we consider taking it out as a requirement to have that process, because they think, because of all the reasons we were just, discussing.
Yeah.
And if it helps, I can just pull up the policy language and you can look at that paragraph.
Yeah, and I'm fine. It's that it goes anonymous after, like, the investigator identifies, okay, so you're going to be anonymous. Nobody else is going to know. But just for the beginning of the investigation, like random people just sending messages or something like that, and it's just
I don't know that that's possible though, because Director Slabink was saying that if a report is made, then it legally has to be
investigator. Okay,
well,
so
no, they need to, the person who's being accused of whatever discrimination has the right to know who is reporting against them.
oh, no matter what.
Right, depending on the type of investigation, there's a requirement to provide that information. So there can be a level of anonymity that goes away in a formal complaint for sure.
And what level is that? Do you explain a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, a person who's being investigated, excuse me, again, is entitled to view some of the evidence that's right against them. And so where we sometimes have concerns might be, like, let's say we have a student to student sexual harassment claim, and maybe a staff member is being not investigated, but being questioned as a witness. And so sometimes we may have a staff member or an adult who's part of someone's family or whatever, who's asked questions about what they know. And not everyone wants, not everyone wants their name attached to those things and worries about their role in sharing information. And so that can be complicated, right? Not everyone wants to be interviewed as a witness to something, even if it's not accusatory toward them, or it doesn't involve them, but they may have information that may be compelling, or may add to the investigation and to what we know or need to know. But if you're being accused of something, you do have, certain rights to access that information and to be able to see the evidence against you. And if someone's being, if we're talking like a really significant investigation where there's some pretty serious charges, people do have the ability to have their union representation, lawyer, et cetera, if that's, what someone wants to do.
Dr. Warren, could you go ahead and show us the language? You're on mute, so.
Okay, sorry, I thought I was showing you that page. What are you seeing right now?
Well, I think I just wanted to have you clarify. I don't see any red lines, so.
Yeah, there aren't red lines in there right now. It was just a comment from the lawyers.
I see.
So if the committee decides to remove this paragraph, there would need to be an amendment put forward. And I assume you would want to then make it consistent between ACAA and ACAB because it's the same language. So you would need an amendment from a committee member proposed to remove this language or to change it in some way.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I can interrupt.
Go
real
ahead.
quick. Yeah, I like this actually. So it's anonymous reporting is still, possible. However, this process will not necessarily allow for investigation, remedial action, and accountability, but will be part of the district's overall annual reporting on schools' climate and needs for change. The process for making any anonymous reports may be modified by superintendent. So
This is what
like,
exists now. This is what the policy is now.
right. So I'm saying like if there's my only concern is like abusing the anonymity piece just for personal actions. Like I'm just going to report you because I don't like you, like things like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only thing I was like concerned about. But the fact that this exists, right? All evidence is necessary, even if it's anonymous. 100%, all evidence is necessary. But I don't want to run off on something that's just somebody said random stuff. I'm gonna run off on it. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I was concerned about. I'm still concerned about.
Thanks.
I'm just wondering if it might be helpful to clarify again the difference between the anonymous reporting and then the investigation. Jennifer, I don't know if you can speak to the difference between investigating an anonymous or informal, sorry, I should say the informal reporting process,
Yeah.
right? Versus the formal
Yeah,
one.
I think yeah. Yeah, so I think I know the numbers that I shared, which were specific to that form, to that reporting form, though that's all of that is informal at that point. So I think this piece of anonymity is related to that informal process. We only get into that requirement to identify who people are if there's a formal complaint. So, when I gave those numbers, we had some 63, 64 informal complaints come through that form, and probably, another 40 or 50 that would have come in through other ways. So figure 100 to 110, 110 complaints that year, 11 of which went to the formal complaint process. So if you think of 110 complaints and 99 of them didn't go to that formal space, That means there was some other means of resolution at the school site, something more informal, restorative, etc. For those 11 or so that went, or 9 that went to like a formal investigation, again, that's where the person who's making the complaint at that point makes a decision that they will attach their name and no longer have that anonymity. They'll attach their name to that complaint and to all of their statements. And that's when the person who's being accused is informed that there's a formal investigation and here's who filed it. And they do they have due process rights. And again, they do have rights to view any of the investigation, all of that information that is evidence that they're entitled to in making their case for themselves. So that all falls under due process. But again, that anonymity piece goes away with the formal complaint under Title IX. But in that informal process, it still exists. And it doesn't mean we don't follow up on things. So if there's an informal something submitted informally and there's pieces in there that we have questions about, we can still follow up at a minimum to see, what more we can find out or understand, or if there's something we need to look into or put into place.
I'm wondering if there's anyone who is wanting to bring an amendment to this to remove the anonymous reporting process clause. Because if we want to formally remove it, someone would need to bring forward an amendment. If not, then we will go forward with voting on whether or not to pass this on to the full board. So I'll give it a minute to see if anyone is interested in doing that. And if we are not able to vote on it tonight because someone wants to take the time, that's also fine. But just let it be known.
So the recommendation is to remove it.
There's the recommendation from the lawyers is to remove it. It's up to the committee to decide what we would like to do.
Yeah, and just to be clear, they were recommending that the board consider removing it, but they weren't saying that you have to legally. Either way, legally, we're on solid ground. Because as Jennifer just explained, it's when the formal reporting process happens that, there's no option for anonymity in the formal process. So this is all about this informal process.
I mean, I'm okay with how it is. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I feel as though I don't want to change it, but I do want to offer the opportunity if anyone feels strongly about changing the language.
I'm okay the way it is because I've read it for years, so I'm comfortable. And even though I see the reporting table from Jennifer is almost equal numbers from anonymously and not anonymously, so I'm still reading the language. I'm still comfortable regardless. Yes.
Yeah. After Jennifer explained it, I'm good.
Dr. Warren, are there any red lines on here that we are approving?
Yes. So let me go back up again.
Great.
I don't think there are any up above. It's just the sort of changes in definition that bring us into alignment with current federal requirements. And again, this language is the same changes would be made in ACAB as well. And slight reorganization of the sentence here. And taking out this reference to people who have not been designated as confidential employees. I think the point being that all school employees are, it applies to everybody. And that was it in terms of the red lines. This was it. It's a pretty it's a technical exercise because we keep swinging between administrations, and then things change just a little bit in terms of the way the language works. And so this is really just about bringing us into alignment with current requirements.
Okay. I would like to make a motion for the consideration and action to approve the changes to ACAA as presented here before us. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Board Member Yusra Ali. Are there any questions from the committee on the motion? Is there any public comment? Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of the consideration and action to approve policy ACAA as the changes to policy AA as detailed here. Board Member Yusra Ali,
Yes.
Board Member Ali,
Yes.
Board Member Mickey Bondo,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. So that passes. And Dr. Warren, I know you said this, but ACAB, the changes are the same. Is there anything different?
No, it's the exact same thing again.
Okay.
It
So
looks a little different just because the other one was messier in terms of the redlining, but it's the same.
great. Okay. Okay, so I would like to make a motion for the consideration and action to approve the changes to policy ACAB, harassment, discrimination, and sexual harassment of school employees as outlined before us. Do I have a second?
I
I
second.
second. So go ahead.
Thank you, Board Member Yusra Ali. And are there any questions from the committee on this motion? Is there any public comment? Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of the consideration and action to approve the changes to policy ACAB, harassment, discrimination, and sexual harassment of school employees. Board Member Ali,
Yes.
Board Member Yusra Ali,
Yes.
Board Member Vice Chair Mickey Bondo,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes, so that also passes. Great, thank you, everybody.
Okay. So let's move on to policy AC. Oops, 1 second. Get to the right version of this. That is not the right version. Hold on. Okay. And I apologize, as I was explaining to Chair Lena just before the meeting, I had a misunderstanding with our legal team and had in the original version I posted or I gave for posting for the board meet or for this committee meeting. The language that changed here, the redlining or purple lining, was exactly the same for adults and students. But then I learned that the language needed to be slightly different for students. So this is a corrected version, which I have posted on Diligent as well. But really all this is just adding pregnancy and related conditions and familial status as categories that are prohibited for discrimination among a staff and adults. And then it's almost the same definition for students, but just with a slight tweak. So pregnancy and related conditions mirrors the staff language. But then for students, it's parental, family, or marital status is the sort of protected status or statuses. So this is it. It's a change in wording, and it is to align with the current law.
Yeah. So,
Yep, go ahead.
because I'll try to wait for you, Maya, to let me.
Oh, I was gonna say, does anyone have anything to say? So go ahead.
So with the kids, like, if it's high school, teen pregnancies happen. You said parents and, family, but pregnancy and related conditions is not on there?
No, it is. Can you see my screen right now, actually?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so so here we have, let me just highlight. So the first set of definitions is for employees, right? And so here we would be adding in pregnancy and related conditions, and then familial status. And then for students, we would be adding the language around pregnancy and related conditions, and then parental, family, or marital status. So the pregnancy and related conditions is for being added for both employees and for students. It's just that for reasons I haven't gone and dug into, when the law got changed, this language around familial status was expanded a little bit for students. So they got to, I think it's because of students and the nature of, their family relationships. So parental, family, or marital status is the slightly expanded version of the language that the law calls for students.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I mean, if I'm being honest, this isn't even really one that we can debate. This is just the law, and we need to comply. We need to align to it.
Do any other committee members have any questions? If not, I'll move it over to a vote. Great. Okay. I am going to make a motion for the consideration and action to approve Policy AC, the non-discrimination, equal opportunity, and affirmative action with the changes before us. Do I have a second? Yes, Board Member Ali, thank you so much. Okay, are there any questions from the committee on the motion? Is there any public comment? Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of the consideration and action to approve Policy AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, and affirmative action as detailed before us. Board Member Ali.
Yes.
Board Member Yusra Ali.
Yes.
Board Member Vice Chair Mickey Bondo.
Yes.
And I'm also a yes, so that also passes. Thank you, Dr. Warren.
Great. Okay, so if it's okay, I'm going to go back.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing while you're going through. So our last thing on the agenda, we have just under 30 minutes to discuss policy GBEB, and we are not voting on this tonight. We are just going through to have a second discussion.
So on this particular policy, we talked and in the version of the policy that's been shared, again, just as a reminder, that what's really in front of the committee right now is a model policy from Drummond, from our lawyers. There are some notes kind of woven into that, just highlighting some things that the committee may want to consider. I also sought feedback from our school leaders to, just had them read that exact same document that's posted here on Diligent, and got some feedback from school and district leaders, actually, but especially our school leaders. And so what you see here is just my attempt to summarize a lot of the key points. And I'd say there was sort of a repeat of several of these themes. So one of them being that it seems to people that the wording of this seems to kind of almost imply that this is all about sexual harassment. And that's not really what we just looked at a policy that was, specific to that. And so this is really meant to be a policy around student conduct. And I think people are hoping that it will be clear that it's more broadly looking at employee conduct with students. So not just sexual harassment. It could be other forms of inappropriate touching, hitting, punching, whatever, that, people want to make sure that that's accounted for. But it could also be in those more sort of interpersonal, social and emotional ways that folks were calling out need to be clear in the policy, that, what is the board saying in terms of what's not appropriate there. There were a number of comments, and this was raised already. It's in the notes in the document, but just a number of comments and concerns raised about really the fact that Portland is such a small community, and many staff have kids in the system, but also have relationships with students who are not their own children, with families of students in the school system. And so, a hope that the committee and the board will ultimately clarify more where those boundaries are, in terms of what people can, should not do, with regard to students that they may actually know, may have even had a relationship with before they met them at school, and may, know the family outside of school, might even be part of a common religious organization or community organization. So a number of comments and concerns about, I think, not going overboard there in a way that it makes it really hard for staff to live in the community that they're living in. And then there were questions, sorry about the typo there, lack of just clarity around after school activities and weekends. And I think that ties back to the prior point, because what if you a student because of Little League, right? That's outside of the school system, but that kid or that family that way. Do all of these rules apply under those circumstances? So folks want more clarity around that. And then a lot of concerns about the notion of out of view. I think, the intent behind that language in the model policy is to avoid any kind of, potential danger or misperception or anything where somebody might think that, a student being alone with an adult could be risky. But the problem is that social workers meet alone with students, counselors meet alone with students, nurses meet alone with students. Sometimes administrators need to, in some cases, maybe it's appropriate for a teacher to, so a lot of folks were raising concerns about that not being, that being just too broad a definition and not clearly enough defined, because it doesn't actually represent the way things function in a school, or the need for confidential conversations between a staff member and a student. There were some questions raised about the language related to driving, and staff driving students places. There is a whole other policy that connects to that we're going to be reviewing later on. And whatever the committee decides to do here, we will need to make sure that policy, I'm sorry, I don't have the letters in front of me right now, but it is on our agenda to look at later in the year. But we'll need to make sure that aligns. And it's also possible that this policy, I think, could not get into detail around that, but instead could just refer to the other policy, which is more specific to staff driving students. But, it's just something for the committee to consider. And then the other thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mention it here. We had talked about it previously in a prior meeting and conversation. The whole notion of staff not being allowed to call students by a pet name or a nickname, or students not being allowed to call staff by their first name. There was a relatively strong, I think, reaction against that, just because of how sort of small and personal Portland tends to be, and a number of our schools staff often have a more sort of almost familial type of relationship with students, and concern that taking that out would be a problem. And then the other thing I had some conversations with people about that's not really, it wasn't so much coming from school leaders, but just trying to dig into, especially with our pre-K team, is wrestling with what is appropriate in a classroom setting. It is pretty common for folks in an early childhood setting, in daycare and in pre-K, to let children, hug them, sit in their laps, a level of sort of touching and affection that I think a lot of people think is important, and other people might say was not appropriate in a school setting. So I think that that is one that the committee really will need to wrestle with ultimately. In terms of process, my recommendation would be that the committee discuss a little bit more this evening, and give some more thought and guidance around this and where you think you might like it to go. And then I could work with Chair Lena and our lawyers to try to come up with a new version that gets farther away from the model policy that they gave us, more towards something that's a red line that would be a little bit more in keeping with, Portland and the culture of Portland and Portland Public Schools. So that's just my suggestion, that I think it's quite hard to edit something like this as a group. But if we have some general guidance about which direction to go in, we could come back with, a detailed red line for conversation.
Dr. Warren, can you talk a little bit about the idea to, I know you showed this to school leaders, but we also talked about sharing it a little bit more broadly with the community, whether it's staff or families, what that process might look like?
Sure. So what we were thinking was that perhaps after the committee has tonight's conversation and gives a little bit more direction in terms of the next draft of the policy, that we could come up with a red line, and then we would seek specific feedback on that red line draft. We would put it out through our union partners, through our school leaders, to get as much feedback as we could from staff, and then we would also put it out for public, consumption and feedback from families through our normal communications mechanisms. And of course, there's always the public comment opportunity, but my sense is that right now it's not getting a whole lot of attention, and it's probably something that a lot of staff and probably a number of families will care about. And so we just want to make sure that folks it doesn't sort of pass through without people having a real opportunity to digest it and give feedback on it.
Are there any committee members that have any thoughts about where we are with GBEB? Okay, I mean, I think Dr. Warren, that makes sense. It is a little bit tricky to we did have a discussion on all of those things before. Oh, Ali, do you have something you want to share?
Yeah, you can finish what you were saying,
Okay.
but
Yeah. Yeah, just go ahead. I was just trying to bring us all together, but go for it.
I felt bad. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's what I was kind of saying last time about the pet name, It's just like, it's like, yo, big dog, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that, and then, yeah, I agree with whatever was brought up, honestly, because even with the preschool stuff, like, they're babies, if my child, if I had one, and they're huggy and whatever and lovey, it is what it is, So.
Great. I guess I would like to share, and I will send this to committee members by email. The Dr. Warren and I did spend some time going through our proposed calendar, and because we've had so many things sort of like interjected into our calendar already so early in the school year, we did do some revisions about which policies we're talking about, which meetings. So that's been revised in the big spreadsheet that has all of the committee schedules, but I'll send that out again so that we can all have that on our radar. But I guess we will next time have our red line version of GBEB to go through, and I can quickly.
Just to be clear, it won't be, so
Oh,
we have
no.
another meeting next Monday.
Yeah, you're
And we
right. Sorry.
won't be able to have it ready for that.
It'll be, sorry, that will be for the meeting on the 24th. So next Monday, we're going to be discussing policy JHB, which is about truancy. And this was flagged by the legal team, so we have to update it due to legislative changes. So we're hoping to have a discussion and vote. It'll be similar to the AC policy tonight where it was, a required change. So we'll go through that. And then also same thing with JKAA, which is physical restraint and seclusion. And then we are going to have an initial discussion on whether or not we would like to create policy IIB, which is about class sizes. We currently do not have one, and we do have guidelines, guidance that we follow in Portland Public Schools, but we've been talking about the potential of creating a policy of that. So if you have ideas and thoughts about that to bring to the meeting next week, that would be great. And we have, I think, some staff that may. I have a staff member who shared comments by email, so I will share those to you as well. I don't think they'll speak at public comment, but that's what's happening.
And
at our
Chair,
next meeting.
sorry, one more, because this was sort of late breaking news that I think Chair Lentz was requesting that the committee review potential changes to BEDH,
Okay.
which relates to public comment rules. So we're working to make sure we have the right version of red lines from the lawyers that matches what Chair Lentz was, I think, hoping to put before the committee.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, great. Good job, everyone. Okay, I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Board Member Ali. And all in favor with a show of hands? And I think we're adjourned. We have a majority. We're adjourned at 7:14 p.m. Just a reminder, we have another set of committee meetings coming up at 7:30 and a board business meeting tomorrow night. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.